Hello, everybody. Good evening. It is Shabbat, Friday, the 27th, I believe it is. And I wanted to touch base with you on some new things that have come across my desk and that I felt like it would be good for you to be aware of. Let's start with the political side of things, which is, the lawfare that we talked about earlier. Now they're going after the Speaker of the House. As you know, many are unhappy with Mike Johnson for some of the stuff he was doing with the budget. However, now they're saying, well, we can't certify the election if there's no speaker. And Mike Johnson is a constitutional attorney, so he's going to know this better than most. Hakeem Jeffers is saying, well, we're not going to support any of this, because the Democrats don't want to see a speaker certified. So I'm not sure what's going to happen, but if they can't count and certify votes without a speaker, it is a problem. Um, the speaker does not have to be a member of Congress. So Rand Paul and others have suggested that it be someone like Elon Musk or Vivek Ramaswamy. I think that might actually be a good move. Put somebody like Vivek in and use the race card on them, which they tend to always use on us. Whether they would do that or not, I don't know whether they would put him in or whether they would consider him use the race card because that's just not typically how the Republicans roll. But I feel like what's good for the goose is good for the gander, and it's not about really using that to the end, but to get our what needs to happen. And then there's some real big shenanigans going on in Arizona with the Attorney General's office. They have been working with a private company called States United, which is providing tons and tons of legal services for free. And it really looks like they were colluding on the 2020 election. They made a kind of a wish list of people that should be investigated and gone after. And Giuliani was one of them, and Meadows was one, and there were several. And sure enough, that's what happened. And they're using the state's facilities. But because they're a private firm and they're not getting paid, they have more options on getting rid of documents and shredding them and whatnot. So it really is a fishy circumstance. And if you want to know the full details on it, I would recommend going to Robert Gouveia. He has a wonderful site. He's a defense attorney out of Arizona, and he covers this stuff in depth, hour long plus podcasts. And sometimes he does shorts too, but he's a wonderful source for that. So, the same thing they're trying to say that Trump did, they were literally doing, and there's documentation to prove it. So, the lawfare that I was talking about is definitely happening. Another thing that came across and was kind of interesting because every once in a while I just get these weird kind of inclinations in the spirit to do things. And one of them was check my coffee supply. And, the Holy Spirit reminding me to tell you not so much to be a prepper, but to be aware of things that you might want to have in stock that might be short. And I got this about toilet paper before 2020. And sure enough, I remember telling my daughter that, hey, you might want to get some extra toilet paper because I got a feeling there's going to be a shortage. And, there was. Well, this time it's about coffee. And a lot of people are talking about Bitcoin and buying gold and this and that. And I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. But I have always felt like, well, that's all good and fine. But, if you have a gold bar, are you going to take it to the grocery store to buy groceries? And I don't think you will. And even a gold coin, let's say it's worth $2,000 or $3,000. Do you think you're going to get change back? I don't think you will. And are you going to be able to even get in the store with the gold coin before it's stolen from you? So I took the approach of, well, what do I need to survive? And I need water and food. Um, Bartering is a great thing. Have services and things that you can do that way. And because I'm a medical provider, I have some skills in that department that the average person doesn't have. But then I was like, okay, what foods and supplies really are, going to be the most critical? And I'm a coffee drinker, so I want my coffee. And I look back in history, and coffee was something that was always traded as well as beef. And beef right now, there's a lot of wrangling going on where homesteaders and ranches are losing or having cattle stolen all over the place. And then we already know that there's been thousands of fires in food processing plants, and they've killed millions of birds because of the bird flu. And there's a lot going on in that department. But one of the things that I thought about when I was looking at this was, well, I think it's probably a good idea to make sure I have what I need, that is imported. Coffee is imported, vanilla beans are imported, avocados for the most part are imported, olive oil is imported. So think about things that you use all the time that are going to be shipped in. And I would encourage you to have those on hand. And when I look at coffee back in 2020, 100 pods of coffee were about $20. Now they're anywhere from $60 to $150. I started buying bulk coffee and perking my coffee because, again, I thought, well, what happens if we have an EPM? I'm not going to be able to use my Keurig. And then the other thing was that the average American eats a credit card worth of plastic a week. Well, that plastic gets stored and is almost impossible to get out. So obviously, if you put hot liquid through a plastic Keurig cup, you're probably getting some microplastics in there. So just decided that was a bad idea too. So the Keurig got put away, and I started perking in a stovetop pot that I could also use on a fire or a gas fireplace or a cooker should I lose electricity. So I could still have coffee. And I'm one of those that I don't want to wait till there's an emergency to learn how to do something. I want to be, well versed at it before that happens. I mean, you don't want to learn how to do surgery as you're doing your first case. You want to learn beforehand. I wanted good coffee if things happen, and I didn't want to be stressed about it. So I started using the percolator, and I really love the coffee that way. So that's all I'm doing. But back to the cost of coffee. So I bought in bulk, and 5 pounds of coffee back then was maybe $25. Now it's like $75 and going up. Just since a month ago, it's gone from 35 to 75. I mean, it's just crazy. So when you think about return on money, what I bought for $20 is now selling for 75. I've got a threefold return plus on my dollar spent. So yes, my dollar's worth less now, but I got, do you follow what I'm saying? That was a better return on my money than had I bought most stocks. So, and I'm not giving up on my quality of life yet. There might be a point that happens, but right now I'm still able to do what I want to do. So I would encourage you to look at things that you use, cinnamon and spices and stuff. That's the other thing. Are you able to make foods that taste good? So, have salt. I really like Redmond's real salt or a good Himalayan salt. And table salt, not so much. A little bit of it's okay because it does have extra iodide in it. But when you use a real salt, it has all the minerals in it that we need: the magnesium and the sodium and the potassium and a lot of the micronutrients, selenium and that type of thing. And so you're getting all of the nutrients you need, not just sodium. So it's not going to taste quite as salty. You might need to use a little bit more, but you're going to get a lot more benefit from it. And again, I would stock up because I don't know what's going to happen, but you want your food to taste good. So think about the recipes that you like to cook, what goes into them, and just make sure, I would get rid of your vegetable oil or at least put it on a back shelf. Again, a little, if push comes to shove down the road and you can't buy any groceries and you need to cook, vegetable oil is going to be better than no oil. But seed oil is really, really bad for you. It's over processed. It's processed in a high heat. It gets in and messes with your endocrine system, and it causes obesity. It has an obesogenic effect to it. So get good olive oil, get avocado oil, coconut oil, and just make sure, again, coconut oil comes from overseas, so you probably want to stock up on a little bit. I can't tell you what to get or how much to get because every family's different and everybody's diet's different and everybody's needs are different. Everybody's budget's different. But start thinking about that, because if the people in positions that already know what their plan is are preparing this way, you probably should too. Um, And I'm not saying be a all out prepper, but cover your behind so that you're not, to go without food for weeks and weeks is not good. And one thing I want to remind you of is the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Okay, so you have the red horse or the white house horse, which comes first, and that's to conquer. And he carries a dagger, or he carries a bow with no arrows. So, what does that mean? A lot of people think he's the Antichrist. And so he's coming to conquer, but he's coming without arrows. So it's probably going to be a diplomatic type of conquering, okay, through wheeling and dealing. Um, then you have the red horse, which most people consider war, but he actually carries a dagger. And so I've heard some commentators say that it's more people against people. And I think we're going to see as much of that as we will war, and we already are seeing it. The lady that got burned to death on the subway, another lady got stabbed, the guy that chopped off the head of his 1-year-old kid. We're, if you look at all the people that die in Chicago every weekend, that starts to add up over time, right? And as if there's a food shortage, if there's a gas shortage, if there's an EMP, violence is going to increase as well. So protect yourself. Okay. Learn how to protect yourself. We talked about that in other videos, but if you're mentally prepared, it helps a lot if you actually have to deal with that. So then the black horse is famine. And it says to spare the oil and the wine. And most people take that as the rich are going to be just fine in this famine, but the average person is going to suffer. And I do think that people in the city, especially if they're on government assistance, they don't tend to keep a lot of food around. And so if they're so used to going to the grocery store and all of a sudden the grocery store is out of things, they're going to be in trouble. And I can tell you, I order online and then I go and I just pick up more and more thing, like right now, Kroger has tenderloins on sale, buy one, get one free. They're out of stock. They had pineapples on sale. They were out of stock. Um, Brussels sprouts, they have it on the stock, but they don't have them in the other forms, even, so more and more I'm seeing a half gallon of whole milk out of stock. Almost constantly Greek yogurt out of stock. Um, so besides the prices going up, I'm seeing more and more that there's shortages of things. And I expect that's going to get worse, because the average grocery store, if there was, a real push with a catastrophe, has enough food for just a couple days. So if trucks can't get in to reload them and refill them up, they're going to be out of food really, really fast. Think about things like detergent, soaps, that kind of thing, because again, look at how much detergent has gone up in price over the last few years. It's crazy. And I would encourage you, like soaps and shampoo, to go to natural. Look on Etsy and find someone that does bar soap. It works really, really well. It lasts a long time, and it doesn't have parabens in it. It doesn't have a bunch of artificial stuff. It's it might be a goat milk base. It might be different kind of shea oil and different kind of bases. But your your hair and skin is an organ, and it absorbs, and you don't need to be taking in all the toxins that are in soap and shampoos. Think about your underarms. Your underarm is loaded with the brachial plexus, and anywhere there's a nerve, there's also an artery and a vein, and there's lymphatics. So if we're putting aluminum and all sorts of things underneath our armpit for body odor control, we're absorbing it into our lymphatics. And I really think that's a big player in breast cancer, because one of the things we do when we remove a breast is we go up into the lymphatics under the axilla area, and we look to see if there's any enlarged lymph nodes and remove them. And often the cancer will go into the tail of the breast. It goes in up under the armpit. So I would switch to a natural deodorant. Again, Etsy's a great place to look at that, and find one that's aluminum free, that's talc free. And I found a company I like out of Georgia that, they're not the cheapest, but it lasts quite a long time, and it's really, really effective. So you don't have to give up quality to go natural. You don't have to stink to go natural. You just have to go to different sources. And these big companies like Procter and Gamble and Johnson and Johnson, they're also part of the pharmaceutical industry. So if you can cut off some of the income that they're getting from other items, why not? I still believe that they're making us sit with things so that they can come in and be the hero. And we got to stop supporting that. We got to get back to taking care of things on a more local level. Buy your beef local, buy your groceries, your fruit and vegetables local as much as possible. And I do go to Kroger's, obviously. I just told you that. I was getting milk from a local dairy, but it was an hour drive there and back. And the last couple times she didn't have half the things available. So to drive somewhere an hour and find out 2/3 of your order isn't available is just kind of like, yeah, I can't do this. Would I like to find somebody near? Yeah. If I had more people, I would probably have my own milk horse, cow. Get a little mini Jersey, and because I'd love to learn to make cheese and that type of thing from the milk. But it's just me, and that's not really practical. I might get a goat at some point, though. I keep toying with these things. It's just that I'm aware that if I take on that responsibility, it's an everyday chore. It's not something that you can kind of hit and miss at. It becomes part of your routine, and it adds another function to the day. Um, but it's in my differential of things that I can do to make it better. So just be aware. I am convinced that this bird flu thing is as much to get rid of backyard birds as it is anything. They don't want us taking care of ourselves, but we need to stand up. We need to talk to our local governments first, and then state government, and then to the federal, because they're real good at taking, starting at a municipal level and saying, oh, you have to have 2 acres to have a bird, and you have to have this to have a bird. And there's been a lot of people that have just wanted to have a little farm stand, and they've got shut down because the municipality made it too hard to license it and stuff. So just, again, be aware. But I'm not saying don't do it. It's kind of hard to shut it down if everybody's doing it, right? If one or two people are, it's easy to pick on them. But if the whole town is doing it, yeah, they don't really have much choice. The other thing is the people that you put into the positions, that get elected to these positions and hired into them. If they have them, they're less likely to want to shut it down, because they're going to shut it down on themselves as well. So we talked about Arizona and States United working out of their office, and how they were colluding to disenfranchise the 2020 election, which tells me again that the results of that election probably were different than what we saw. We talked about that they're trying everything in their power not to certify the votes for this election, despite the nation out, without doubt, wanting President Trump. They're trying to cause conflict between Trump and Musk by calling Musk President Musk. These are all psyops, okay? These are all lawfare and psyops and ways to get into your head and make you think that things are wrong. Just like them calling him misogynistic, saying that, he's a cheater and a liar and a this and that. When he's the first president in my lifetime that has tried to keep when he said he wasn't going to take a salary, he didn't take a salary. When he said he was going to build the wall, he built the wall. When he said he was going to get Mexico to help pay for it, he did. So he kept more promises. When he said he was going to move the embassy to Jerusalem, he did. Is he perfect? No. Is he the Messiah? Absolutely not. But I think that he's the best available right now, and he is a fighter, and he is tough, and he's a good negotiator. Will the Antichrist still come on the scene someday? Yes. We can't stop that. God already said it would happen, and because he already said it, he can't undo it. The end of the age will happen, and it's near. But I think there's things that have to happen before we go up in the rapture. Could I be wrong? Excuse me. Absolutely. We could go up tonight. So I would be prepared either way. Because if you count on it being tomorrow and it doesn't happen, you're just going to get disappointed, and you're going to say, well, the church hasn't been honest with me. And that's not true. God didn't give a time. He didn't say whether it would be before or after the wars. Okay? It's before his wrath. But his wrath isn't war. Even nuclear war, that's not his wrath. That's man's wrath. And there really, to me, is a distinct difference. Do they kind of go together? Yeah. But Jesus told us there will be wars and rumors of wars, and they must happen. So that means they must happen. He didn't say, and I'll come get you before they happen. Might he? Yes. But he didn't come before the Holocaust. Okay. So he didn't come before World War II. Now, World War II didn't hit the United States like it did Europe, but it still was horrible. So my point is, do I want to go home? Absolutely. But I'm going to stay and be a soldier of the Lord and share the gospel and be strong and be a good representative of the kingdom until we go home. And although I want to go soon, I can remember being in the Philippines and really wanting to come home. Really, you get short and you really want to come home. And that's, but you still got to go to work every day and you still got to do your best. So the patients depended on me. The military depended on me. My bosses depended on me. My coworkers depended on me. So coming in with a bad attitude was not an option. So you can want to go home, but still do your job. And that's what I'm saying. Okay. So we talked about getting food that comes from overseas in particular, because if there are problems, if we go to a bigger war, a lot of those things are going to be shut down. Okay. Also, the stock market's still rallying, but don't be surprised if it tanks. All of the signs are there that it's going to tank, whether Trump goes into office or not. Okay. It can only go so high before it comes down. It's like what goes up must come down. So be prepared for that. Don't freak out. If you're depending on your money in the stock market for something, you might want to consider doing something else with it. Same with gold and um, crypto. A lot of people believe crypto's the answer. Maybe it is. I don't think it is. But I could be wrong. I'm not a financial person. I'm a nurse. When I give you health stuff, it's true and it's real. When finances, I'm just throwing things out there that have crossed my mind that the Holy Spirit's put on my heart. But I am not saying that I'm a financial expert. I'm not telling you what to do with your money. I'm just saying be prepared either way, okay? Have a plan. Have some cash. Have skills that you can barter. Have food. Have a way to sterilize your water. Because at some point, things are going to happen. And I think that the people that are nefarious actors are getting scared and they're more likely to act out. Okay? So just be ready. Weekends always tend to be, the Friday dump and then the weekend, lots of things tend to happen. So I tend to kind of relax during the week, and then when the weekend happens, I'm watching news a little closer because inevitably something bad happens. It's just the cycle that we're in. And you know, Jesus talked about that the end times would be like a woman in travail, a woman that was getting ready to have a baby. Well, what happens when you have contractions? Okay, at first you have the Braxton Hicks, and they hurt, and you think it's it, but it's nothing. Then the oh boy, I don't know what happened. I just froze. Okay, then the contractions happen more steady, but not all together. And then pretty soon they're harder and more frequent. Well, I think we're going towards that hard and frequent time. And again, I was a labor and delivery nurse. I can tell you it's no fun. But when you know what's going to happen, it's a little bit easier to deal with it. So I think we're heading to that point. So be ready. What does that mean? That the earth is going to travail, meaning earthquakes and volcanoes and storms and all of that's going to happen more and more frequently. And it is not global warming. Okay, the ice cap actually is increasing in size. It's not global warming. Climate change, yeah, climate changes all the time, every day. Some days are warm, some days are cold, some days are wet, some days are dry. Welcome to the world. But it does mean that the plates are shifting, the poles are moving. A lot of what we're seeing as far as temperature changes, I think, has to do with the North Pole migrating and the tilt changing just a little bit. And it was all prophesied. So it's going to happen. And whether we have planes or SUVs or electric vehicles or whatever, it's not going to matter. God said he go out and multiply. If he told us to do that, he's going to provide enough food and resources for us. Okay. We're not running out of those. Every time we think we hit the end, I can remember the 70s and the gas shortage. Guess what? We've had gas ever since. 50 years later, we still have plenty of gas. Now, will there be political reasons that there's shortages? Yes. I don't trust man. Man does stupid things. And we have two sides, evil and good, fighting against each other. And then we have other actors in there that really are just doing their thing and they don't know what they're doing. They're not evil or good. So have what you need, plan a month or two ahead just in case. Get into the word because that's where you're going to find your peace. I will do my best to keep you current on what's happening in the world. Do not be surprised if you see lawfare happening at a level that you never thought was feasible. And I watch it only because what they're doing to these people, they can do to us. Don't think that it can't happen to you. They can come in and seize your home. They can seize your food. I think about the people in North Carolina and Georgia and Virginia that were preppers and they had all this food put aside and their home got washed down the river. Well, how did it help them? So yes, I think you need to be prepared for all of that, but also be aware that things can happen like that. And typically, when I look back on my life, things happen that changed my life, and they were very quick in happening. Like when the guy broke into my house and attacked me. I was not expecting that. I was not prepared for that. And within, a matter of minutes, my life drastically changed. When my dad died, same thing. My life drastically changed. One minute he was laughing, the next minute he was bleeding all over me, and I was trying to do mouth to mouth resuscitation into all this blood. And so God has shown me that things change and they change quickly. But at the same point, he never left me. He never, he was always there. And he always provided, no matter how hard things got. And I had some times that I didn't know where I was going to get, the next month's rent. And, I had a car that was breaking down. I didn't have the money to fix it and blah, blah, blah. But he always took care of me. I always had a way to get there. I can remember my car breaking down the middle of a four-way intersection, and I thought we were going to die. And out of nowhere, two guys showed up, helped me move my truck out of it was an old International Scout, get it out of the intersection, and they ended up helping me finish my move. I didn't know how I was going to move some of the heavy furniture, and there they showed up. So a lot of times bad things end up being good things. And on that note, I'm going to let you go. Shabbat Shalom. No, I am not. I'm a Christian, but I also believe that God told us to keep the Sabbath and make it holy and separated. Holy means to be separate, so not to forget the Sabbath. And so I still believe the Sabbath is on Saturday, so I do try and keep it. Do I keep it to the level of the religious level? No. I consider it a Father's Day. It's a day that I try to set aside for God and for Jesus. And so I try and get into the scripture a little more. Do I succeed in not doing any work? No, most days I don't. I try, but inevitably I get pulled into cleaning up the barn or, cleaning up poop in the barn or filling water tanks or something that I forgot to do on Friday. I'm working on it. I'm a work in progress, just like you guys. But on that note, have a very blessed evening. Shabbat Shalom. And keep looking up because our redemption draws nigh.